All right, we're live. We are live, people. You're listening to Restore the Republic, the voice of the people who've had enough. Enough of the corrupt judges, enough of the rogue cops, enough of the lawyers who twist the law, and politicians who trample them. This is a show that dares to ask, where did our de jure American government go to, and how do we get it back? I'm your host, Sheriff Andrew Wank, on the unincorporated Richland County, Ohio, and every week we expose the lies and decode the legal traps for you to reclaim what's rightfully yours. No fluff, no compromise, just fact. Today we got a couple special guests on with us. As always, we got Sheriff Adam Bonner from the unincorporated Summit County, Ohio. How you doing, Adam?
Great, and you?
Doing good. And our two special guests are Mark Chapkovich.
That's good.
From unincorporated Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Good to see you, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Good. And we also have Annette Sackrader. She is the sheriff from Marion County, unincorporated Marion County, Florida. So Amazing. How you doing, Annette?
I'm great, and I really am excited to share all this great information with everyone and with these three amazing-looking guys.
That's great. Yeah, this is a little different from some of the other podcasts because it's mostly all women, but we outnumber the women here.
That's actually a fact.
Bundy, we are the no ma'am. No. No, but anyways, today we're going to do a deep dive into the story that's been hidden in plain sight: the rise, fall, and the restoration of the American Republic. What if I told you that you pledge allegiance? What if I told you the government you pledge allegiance to isn't one of the founders created? The Republic was quietly replaced, and that you have a role in bringing it back. So today we're going to start off with the birth of the Republic. Adam?
So the founding intent, sovereignty, and self-governance came through the Declaration of Independence, 1776. The colonies declared themselves as free and independent states, each with full sovereignty. So this wasn't just a break from Britain. It was a declaration of individual statehood, trickled down into the counties as well. And then we had the Article of Confederation, 1781. The first constitution formed a union of sovereign states. It was a compact, not a consolidation. Each state retained its independence and delegated only limited powers to the Confederation. So the key principles, the people were sovereign, the government was a tool, not a master, and then the Republic was built on the idea that powers flow from the people to the states and then to the federal government, not the other way around, which is kind of what we experience today. So they didn't fight a revolution, to trade one king for another. They built a system where people ruled and the government served.
Yeah, exactly. You guys, what do you think about, today, in today's atmosphere, it seems like DC and the states governments act like they're in charge, like the people don't exist. They just do what they want and you don't have a choice about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I witnessed. How do you guys feel about it?
For me, every day I compare them to the brown shirts, that they forgot who their bosses were, and they actually literally just boss the people around, and the people are actually pretty terrified of them.
I agree.
It's wrong.
Mark, any thoughts? No?
Well, yeah, it's interesting to me how we got there. And everybody has this belief that they are the government. And when you look back, it all goes back to the education, and it's important to get this information out to younger people because what you learn when you're young is what your belief system will most likely be.
Exactly. Yeah, the one thing that I really want to get across to everybody, and I try to say it almost every week, that, DC, the foreign corporations in there, they're just governmental service providers. It's their only reason for existence. Other than that, they shouldn't be there. Well, anyways, let's talk about the Constitution of 1787. It was the original service contract, isn't that?
two constitutions. We emphasize that the original Constitution was for the United States of America, not of. This subtle distinction matters. And it was a contract between the states and a service provider, aka the federal government. Limited delegation. The constitutions delegated only 19 enumerated powers to the federal government. Everything else was retained by the states and the people. Three parties: the people, sovereigns of the land, and the states, the political instruments, and then the federal government, a subcontractor hired to perform specific tasks like defense and trade regulation. The Constitution wasn't a leash on the people, it was the leash on the government.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what a lot of people also forget. You know, the contracts that we gave them, the constitutions, they're not for us. They're not for the people. They're for them, the service providers. They have to follow that. We don't. Any thoughts?
I agree. You know, as subcontractor agents and franchisees of, you know, agencies, they were supposed to help with the reconstruction, and you see how that quickly spiraled into just a face plan into nothingness. It's all been commercialized and unlawfully converted into legal fiction, this and that, versus law. So that's where statutory took over, I believe.
Yeah.
I was excited to see the reversal of the Chevron difference, and that to me is where they brought in so many of their extra laws, or whatever they want to call them, you know, with their fourth branch of government just doing whatever they wanted, and we all just didn't even get to vote on it. We didn't even get to decide. It was just, that's what you're just going to do, and you're going to like it. And so I was really happy to see that reversal, and I'm really excited to see that starting to implement as we're going forward to restoring this country.
Exactly. Any thought, Mark?
Yes. So there's actually three constitutions, and the first one was for the American subcontractor, and people don't realize that, and they're more familiar with the municipal and territorial, but a lot of people don't even realize there's three constitutions. And one of the things that always amazes me is when you hear people say things like, well, you know, my constitutional rights. Well, the constitutions, like you said, aren't for us. They don't give us our rights. Our rights are unalienable and given to us by our Creator.
Exactly.
And then we have state constitutions as well. We're talking about the federal side of our contractors.
Yeah, exactly, Mark. That was a great point, you know. Well, we talked about jurisdiction on here a lot of times. So, and everybody kind of forgets it. You know, we got the land jurisdiction, the sea jurisdiction, and the air jurisdiction. And, you know, I've actually was talking to an FBI agent not too long ago, and he was telling me something about, he knows the three branches of government. And I was kind of like, well, I'm not talking about the three branches of this foreign governmental service provider. I'm talking about jurisdiction here. There's three types of jurisdiction. Mark, do you want to fill us in on them?
Well, you've got the land jurisdiction, which has common law, and where living men and women operate as sovereigns. This is the realm of the republic. Then you've got the sea jurisdiction, which is admiralty maritime law, where corporations and contracts are the rule. This is the realm of the British Crown and international commerce. And in the air jurisdiction, the third one, ecclesiastical law or trust law, is where you have spiritual and fiduciary matters addressed. The republic was grounded in the land jurisdiction, but over time, Americans were tricked into operating in the sea jurisdiction as corporate entities and not living men and women. You were born on the land, but your legal identity was cast adrift on the sea. But let me just clarify a little bit here, because you often hear about the land and soil jurisdiction. So you want to make a distinction, because actually we're on the soil jurisdiction. That's where common law is, and you've got men and women on the soil as opposed to the land. The land is the state realm, and the soil jurisdiction is of the counties. So, that's a distinction that you have to keep in the back of your mind. You'll hear them referred to as one and the same, but they're not. You'll hear people talk about the land and soil, but they are two distinct jurisdictions.
Right.
Yeah, Mark, you're absolutely right. I think we had one over this probably last week or something that, the soil jurisdiction is a national jurisdiction,
Mhm.
and the land is international. That's where the whole state
Yeah.
is international. Yeah.
And there's
You know-
a 6-inch rule that applies too.
I would like to add that I've asked thousands of just general men and women, and if you ask them what the acronyms for law actually mean, I think I had not even lawyers. Like, I've literally had almost no one actually get what that was all about.
Land, air,
That
and
it's the
water.
land, air, and water, correct. So they're not spending any time in our educational system to actually teach these young men and women their whole system, what it's really about. All of the truth behind things is covered up on purpose, of course.
Yeah, you're right. It is. And you know what? Number one, our education system it seems like it's gone downhill for years, and right now, we got kids. I'm not sure about your guys' counties, but up here in mine, they want them to pass tests. They study to pass a test. So you retain that information for a test, you pass it, you forget the information. And, I know, I'm not sure about you guys, but, when I was in high school, we had U.S. history and we had American history, and we had two separate books. And, I literally sat there as a, 15, 16, 17-year-old thinking, what the hell is this? I was confused. How can there be two histories of this country? But,
Right.
now we know.
I think that we're all in for a big surprise that's coming to the actual real history of this country. I was reading the documents of Christopher Columbus and how he got sent back to Europe in shackles 3 times. And everybody praises him like he's some hero, but when you read the court transcripts, you're pretty shocked of how things really actually went down.
Oh yeah. People don't even realize, the criminal stuff and the trafficking and lots of stuff like that went on that nobody knows about because they don't teach it. Just spread the word down in Florida. They could use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that. I might have to look into that.
Yeah, he wasn't a good guy. And then another one, what we always joke around, everybody is ask them what Shanghai means, and most of them have no idea that most of the ports were Shanghaiing people to go on the pirate ships and on even the vessels that our government were using, and they obviously didn't want to do it, so they were reluctantly taken as drunks from the bars. They had these floor doors, and they would toss them down when they were drunk, and they'd wake up on the ship, and guess what? You're working.
Mhm.
They get shanghaied, huh?
Got shanghaied. Yeah, Savannah, Georgia, one of the biggest ports in the country for that all the time.
Interesting. Very interesting.
That's
Well,
where they came about calling them belligerents too, because they would take them while they were drunk. And
That's
isn't
right.
that what they call us now? Enemy combatants of the state and belligerents?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah.
Well, that's what they call U.S. citizens.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Well, how was the Republic lost? That's what we're going to go over, the Civil War and the emergency powers, Adam.
Yeah, Congress adjourns sine die 1861. The original Congress of the Republic ceased to function during the Civil War. It never reconvened under the same lawful authority. So Lincoln's emergency powers, President Abraham Lincoln declared a national emergency and began operating under war powers. And I believe what happened is he called a special session where he then was acting as commander-in-chief, and this went against Robert's rule of order. So this marked the beginning of the rule by executive fiat, and then we went from there into martial law and military rule. So the republic was suspended, Constitution was suspended, and the government began functioning as a military protectorate, a temporary measure that became permanent. And just every 2 years, there's an emergency, there's a war, there's a conflict. And so, the war ended, but the emergencies and the emergency acts were just implemented and continued. And the republic never came back, which it doesn't mean that it went away, that they had the authority as contractors to remove it altogether. It just means that it's been vacated. Positions have been vacated, and the jurisdiction and the authority is still there. People just have to reconstruct and take those vacated offices back.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling some of our local police chiefs and, some of the city councils that, exactly that. These positions they're just waiting for us to restore them, refill them, and take them back,
Yeah,
Right.
I think a lot of people don't recognize that when they got to learn some more stuff about our military as well, and that it was partial for forming this whole country, but under a COG, and you get the Emergency War Powers Act too, the constitutions are suspended. So people go, "Hey, I got all my rights," but no, you don't. Not when we're at war. And of course, they keep us at war all the time on purpose so that they can keep us spinning and not paying attention to what they're up to.
Yeah, exactly. I think they get the double whammy on us. U.S. citizens really don't have any rights anyways. Then you add these emergency powers, and, I've talked about that a lot, where nowhere in these contracts have we delegated anything to them about emergencies, It's not in there.
Yeah, they throw those lights on and they think it's an emergency, that they're stopping you, that you're going 5 miles over the speed limit, and it's not an emergency. It's, how did you offend that state? How did you offend anyone by speeding? It's a recommendation, but they take advantage of that to detain you, take your time,
Yes,
take your money. Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you for that. That's awesome, to get those little, historical intricacies and perspectives. We need to have more guests. We need to have more sheriffs come on. And
yeah, I know you're right. You're right. We do more guests, to get, it's good to have different states involved too, Pennsylvania, Florida. I mean, we need the people to see what's going on. That's originally why I started this channel, to get the word out, get the message out. There's people all over in every state. They're standing up, filling these positions, and we just want to start showing our audience that, hey, we're here, we're coming back, and we want you to join, and make it easier on all of us.
Right.
Yeah, Mark said that earlier, and I felt really a hole in my heart when he said that the people are leaving, and it's just sad because we're really at the precipice at this point, that we're ready to go, and they're falling, and we need to step in, and we all need to really actually do our part and take this country back without bullets fired. Like, actually stand up and say, this is our country and we're not taking this anymore. So we have to stress that to the people. They don't need it. They are their heroes. They don't need heroes. They need to put their big girl pants on and their big boy pants on and step up and say, we're taking it back.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the ammunition. Yes, nobody's coming to save you but you. So
That's right.
Exactly. Well, all right. Let's talk about the corporate coup, the Act of 1871, Annette.
District of Columbia Incorporation. There's one that everybody misses. The Congress passed the Act of 1871, creating a municipal corporation called the United States. This was a corporate entity, not the original government. The corporate governance, the new entity operated under corporate law, not constitutional law. It was created a perilous system that looked like the Republic, but really wasn't. A shift in language, the subtle change from United States of America to United States marked a shift in jurisdiction and authority. They didn't rewrite the Constitution, they rebranded the government.
Yes, they did. They pulled the old kibosh on everybody. And, I personally feel like people are really starting to get this. I said this last week because there is so much chatter, so many voices on social medias. People are starting to spread the word, and think back then in the 1800s, late 1700s. How did you get the message around? It was either by horseback or in your local pub, but it didn't get around to certain parts of the country.
Yeah, when I bring that up at our city council meetings, they go quickly to shut the mics off. They don't want people to know they're Dun and Bradstreet corporations and that they're actually businesses just operating for profit. And the people seem shocked. They don't actually check into that.
Are they changing the name of municipalities down there as a whole around your area? Are you paying attention to that? Because I've noticed up here there's been about 5 or 6 of them that have changed, pillar names that have been there for a long time.
We have noticed a few different things happening, even all the way up in Alaska. We were asking about that because there are significant changes going on, which is kind of interesting. I like to see it.
Well, it just proves that they're corporations and that they're not, like they say, nonprofit. They're for profit, or they wouldn't keep re-registering under new principles. And usually it's like the head judge of the municipality or the most senior.
Mm-hmm.
And they got dozens of LLCs under their names through the Secretary of State's office.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that they play paperwork suppression games.
Yep. One big one big thing we noticed across the country is that the tax offices have taken the names of the counties off them. So they're just saying they're tax offices. So they don't say, like ours would be Marion County Tax Office. All of the buildings have taken that off and just say tax office. So that's
what I'm talking about. Those
that's
little
great.
changes.
Hopefully they know what's coming down the line. It's time to shape up or ship out.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, Annette, you were bang on there about the suppression. Up here in some of my city council meetings that I went to, Adam knows this because I told him, there's media there. There's television cameras, and they're filming certain segments and this and that and taking pictures. And, the next day I'll go to the newspaper online and the whole meeting will be there except for me and my notices I put in the statements that I were reading. And it's like, come on, people. It's actually a bad deal. Because, if they're not getting this information out to my local people, they're actually doing a disservice, because that could cause a disruption. That could cause trouble, by people not being aware. And then all of a sudden there's a change. Well, you know what? I've told you guys this for years. Mm-hmm. You should be aware of it. Your media should be telling you, but they're not. And it's kind of BS, really.
Yeah, in our last meeting in their chambers, the people they shut my mic off and the people all stood up and started yelling at them. They'll give me their time and stuff like that. And they went crazy and they started yelling no to the people. They literally stood up and started yelling no. And so the people were very upset. So they put us in a 5-minute time out. And I said, time out, you guys should be in time out. We're your bosses. And they didn't like that one bit.
That's great, though. You're right.
Anything that was fighting words or any expletives or any profanity or anything that would suggest fighting or threat?
No, people stood up.
They just violated your rights.
They said, hey, let her finish. I'll give her my time. We had at least 50 people stand up and say, I'll give her my time, because they keep us to 2 minutes. Yeah. And it was impressive, actually, and made them think twice. It really made them think twice because they were seeing, I don't think they've seen the public get that irate before.
That's great.
Awesome.
Well, let's talk about the legal fiction and the birth certificate trap, Mark.
Well, that's through the creation of the straw man. So in the early 20th century, birth certificates were instituted, and people just thought they were, recording, people's being born. But they started what the actual reason for the certificates is to register Americans as corporate entities, which are legal fictions, not as opposed to living men and women. So under the jurisdiction of the corporate United States, men and women were created, or legal fictions were created in the same names as living men and women, and that was done purposely to confuse people and to abuse their good names. And so on the birth certificate, you'll have the all capitals name, like John Doe, and that represents either a corporation or a trust or other type of legal fictions, but they're not living people or living men and women.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they presumed that you consented to all this by not rebutting this presumption. So you're treated as a U.S. citizen or a citizen of the United States, subject to statutory or Roman civil law, not common law. So you were born free, but your legal identity was sold into servitude.
Bingo, man. We've been going over that for a long time, and some of these people, the judges, they know what's going on. Come on. If there's any judges watching tonight, for the love of Christ, you know what's going on. We know what's going on. The gig is up. Holy shit. I mean, come on. You guys know it. This stuff it's getting embarrassing.
Yeah, the jig is up, man. I think I let one of the cities next to me know that back in August, and the next thing I know, their municipality name changed, and I was like, did that have something to do with that, or was that in the works? Either way, the jig is up.
So they slide things in really slippery, because what they had is the parents cutting the cord, and then that never was done before. The cord was left, it pulsated, the blood went into the baby, it was left on the baby for much, much longer. And so that was part of the gig, because then they said this is alive, and the parents chose to cut it, which severs the that
what does the
body
baby
from
come
the mom.
down though? Prior to coming out, what does it come down? The terminology that they're using is
Birth
all
canal. Mhm.
right. Okay.
Yeah, the
So-
vessel's coming down the canal, right?
And then we need a dock. Then we need a manifest, and then we got to register the cargo. It's all just an unbelievable scam that people don't really get unless someone helps them through this, like you guys. Tell them the truth.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to see all this crap. It's just, I always think about that one saying where it's easier to fool someone than it is to get them to believe they've been fooled,
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard talking to people, they just block it out, and they can't really understand what the hell's going on. But God, and you know what, for all of us, I'm pretty sure we're all the same. Once you learn this stuff and know the history, you can't unlearn it. It's there. It's all in books.
And what's interesting though is when you mention things like we were talking earlier about, on TV, you'll see these Republicans and Democrats talking about our democracy, and we don't have a democracy. We have a Republican form of government, but that never seems to click in people's minds. What are they talking? They should be asking, what democracy? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Democracies refer to some type of corporation where there's usually a CEO at the top, which in this case, it would be a president named Trump. Right?
Yeah.
So that's if people would just look at terminology and kind of educate themselves on, democratic principles or how they do, that whole system, it refers to corporation. So that's how you know that when they converted our republic into, of the United States and then to just the United States, that's how it shifted to, corporation. Before they kind of were trying, they failed, and that's why it took about a 4 or 5 year period after the 1871, the Act of 1871. It took a little while after, for that to go through, because it was met, with great opposition. They had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how did they dupe us. So, that's just a little tidbit on that.
Yeah, well, hey, we do have to be careful though, because I get caught up in it a lot where I just kind of go a little crazy and go, this isn't a democracy, but their foreign corporation actually is a democracy. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not lying. It's
Mhm.
just people ain't getting the full truth here. The U.S. citizens do
Right.
belong to that democracy, but there's something else out there. Being a state national, you're not part of that citizenship. We don't owe allegiance to any foreign corporation.
There's something running concurrently alongside that whole system.
Yeah.
Freedom.
All right. Well, Annette, do you have something?
For
No. Was you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, it's predictive programming. They put it all over television, all of the stations saying the exact same thing,
It's a
and they've
psyop.
literally scammed all the young generations into thinking that the democracy is actually something that they want rather than a republic. When we were young, nobody would say democracy, none. They would always be very proud of the republic. So again, television plays a really big role in that deception. It's called programming for a reason.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Democracy is the mob rules, and
Mhm.
I'm not in that. The republic is individual rights, You leave me alone if I don't do anything wrong.
No victim.
PsyOps agent. He said hence my name, because his name's
Mm.
PsyOps agent.
Mm.
All right. Well, now we got the Federal Reserve and the financial enslavement. Adam.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is a private banking cartel that took control of America's money supply. The U.S. Treasury became a collection agency for foreign creditors, and fiat currency and debt slavery, well, this became a reality. So the gold-backed dollar was replaced with Federal Reserve notes, debt instruments, not money, so basically IOUs. And then Social Security and collateralization took place. So you were collateralized by your labor and your future earnings. These were pledged as collateral for national debt through your Social Security number. You heard it here first, unless if you've done your own research. So they didn't just take away your gold, they took away your future and then basically dumped on you and your progeny and their progeny and so on and so forth up until we're talking about it now.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Adam. Hey, I don't know if any one of you know, but probably a couple of years ago when I was doing a deep dive into your Social Security card number and this and that and birth certificate, it has a CUSIP number on it. Well, someone told me about a online website where you could go and type in this CUSIP number from your birth certificate.
Right.
And I did that. And it popped up to where, it basically was showing me what corporations were trading me.
The GMEI utility that used to be in the Netherlands, I think, offered that on their website. And I don't know what they turned it into now. I think it's under a different name or something, but you have to pay for that.
Well, if anybody watching knows it, put it in the chat, because I'm telling you, that is a game buster right there. When you can actually tell people where to go to, type in their CUSIP number, it'll change their mind real quick about what's going on.
You can get a Fidelity Trust account, and you can look things up that way. If you have anybody who does investing that has access to Bloomberg, it's like $5,000-6,000 a year. You could have them basically do a forensic audit on anything and everything to your CUSIP numbers and bonds and court cases, you name it. Yeah, Fidelity.
They're just not trading living men and women's on their CUSIP numbers and bonds and birth certificates. Check your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents. Those
Right.
bonds are still out there being traded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Talking about trading, I just heard today, I don't know if it's true. I got to check it out, but someone was saying that our governmental service providers were talking about having a 50-year mortgage coming up. They're trying to install some kind of plan like that.
Yeah, no, not here.
So, well, just think about it. Klaus Schwab wasn't wrong. You're going to have nothing and then like it.
Yeah, I could do that
You ain't going to be
anyway.
able to own a house anymore. You're just going to rent it and like it.
Yeah, China has 100-year mortgages.
Really?
Try that. That's generational mortgages. That's mortgages. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, they think their price of the value of their house has gone up so much, and that their stuff is worth so much, and they're getting paid so much. I have to explain that to them all the time, that no, your dollar is worth 3.5 cents. It's worth nothing, and the world doesn't want it because of inflation. It's not that it's
Right.
your things are more valuable. It's hard to explain to them that if we were on the gold standard, that type of inflation can't be inflicted on us. And that's part of why they have this debt for us to carry forward, so they can keep us in control. It's really sad.
I remember
Can I
a few
jump in here?
years back. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, so when people want to know why are we doing this, and I'll just stick with this one example, but for me, I want my constitutional guarantees. We are owed our constitutional guarantees, and one of those is sound money, gold and silver.
Yep.
And the reason we're in such bad financial shape as Americans is partially because we don't have sound money, and that is a constitutional guarantee. Our money is not Federal Reserve notes; it's gold and silver, and it's not inflation so much. It's they keep devaluing the dollar. I mean, the dollar is worth almost nothing now, for pennies to what it was compared to, when they first instituted it. But
Right.
yeah, I
That's what I
want
was gonna
the
say.
constitutional guarantees, and that's why I'm here.
I
Yeah,
remember
Mark,
back when I found out it was roughly around 37 cents is what the dollar was worth. My mouth about hit the floor. I was like, goodness, something is definitely up with this, because it's not asset backed. It's not gold or silver backed. And anytime they want more, they just put more of it out.
Mhm.
So it's like one of the biggest scams that nobody talks about in our history.
Yeah.
I
That's a
was
good-
sorry, go
that's a
ahead.
good one. That's a good one, Mark, that you bring it up, because it goes right into the flow of what I was saying before. You just these contracts that we gave to the service providers, the constitutions, all you have to do is open it up, and it says it right in there. You read the contract, Republican form of government, guaranteed Republican form of government, gold and silver as the monies, and they're right there.
Mhm. I was on listening on a talk show today, and they were saying 20 years ago, 67% of 30-year-olds had a home and were married. Today, it's in the single digits.
Yeah.
In the single digits. That's pretty profound, and that explains all of it right there, what you guys are all talking about. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
have to hang out with mom and dad because they just can't afford it.
All right, well, let's talk about the rise of the de facto government, Annette.
Okay, municipal corporations. After the Act of 1871, the government began operating as a municipal corporation, the United States, headquartered in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. The de facto versus the de jure. The lawful de jure government of the Republic was sidelined. In its place, a de facto government took over, one that looks legitimate but operates outside of the original constitutional framework. Corporate officers, not public servants, presidents, judges, legislators became corporate administrators, enforcing policies for the corporation, not laws for the republic. You were voting for a president. Sorry, you thought you were voting for a president, but you were actually just electing a CEO.
We bring that up all the time. I tell that to everybody, because you see so many people talking about Trump, talking about Biden, everybody, whatever. Trump ain't, I don't know what kind of person he is, but, he is not the president of the United States of America. He is the president of a foreign Crown of England corporation.
United States corporation.
Yeah.
And it owns a lot of countries, and they're all bankrupt.
Yeah.
Insolvent, been dissolved
Yeah.
numerous
Try it.
times.
Try to tell them that in Germany, they think you're crazy. I said, you know what? We have military bases all over the world because we actually
Right.
own those countries.
We might want to watch out talking about that when we go on, Oktoberfest next year, Andrew.
Yeah.
Sorry about bringing that up, boys.
Oh no, that's great. But it's true. It's just one thing that we have to get out to the people, that the difference between a de jure government and a de facto government. I've been doing a lot of reading in the law of peace. The law of peace, and how to, like, the law of recognition, and how these governments just recognize one another. And if you're not legit in the first place, how in the hell did these countries recognize these foreign corporations as our government? That's what's boggling my mind. I want to find out the answer to that. What was that, Adam?
Through banking.
Yeah, I guess so. That would be it.
Can you imagine how they'd feel when we actually give them back their countries? They didn't even know we had their countries or controlled them. I think that's where the respect of living man and woman come from. That it's their ecclesiastical right to have their country, not have a basically dictator telling everybody how to act everywhere all over the world. It's just unconscionable.
Well, these other countries, Andrew, they were run by, it wasn't de jure governments they were dealing with. They did the same thing in all the other countries. So, one criminal is talking to another criminal in different countries, and that's how they did it.
Good point, Mark. That's why I like hearing other voices, because you're absolutely right. Those are the things I don't think about all the time, but yeah.
Yeah, they think we're doing peacekeepers, whatever. No, we got military bases in those countries because we're controlling them.
Yeah, it really makes me mad that foreigners from other countries, they look at us people and think we're part of this bullshit U.S. government stuff. That's raining terror on their lives, on their towns, on their nations. It pisses me off.
Yeah, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, they don't want their kids dying in other countries for stuff that has nothing to do with us. And I'm sure that the other people fighting them don't want to have their kids or their husbands and wives dying either. It's stupid. We need to just worry about our own country and love this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country, and leave everybody to love theirs. It's not fair for us to be the bullies of the world.
Well, that's another great reason for people to join the assemblies, is because Trump really doesn't have the authority to declare war on other countries and to start all this nonsense they do. It's basically it's a money-making scheme through the Department of Defense and defense contractors, and we can say no to it, but we need to get them back in their place, and we need to get our assemblies up and running.
Yeah, I don't even think I don't think they're declaring anything anymore. They're just going ahead and doing whatever they want to do.
Pretty much, yeah.
But Adam, there is that Pete Hegseth, isn't he the boss of the Department of War? Isn't that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that the same thing? Department of War and Department of Defense? They just changed the name, or?
There's a lot of different titles, a lot of different offices and people in positions that run each of those offices. But he's the guy that's in the public's eye, in the public light.
Yeah. Well, did any American tell them they were allowed to do that?
I don't recall voting for it.
Well, they can't really call it defense if they're just going around bullying everybody. That's war. That's not defense. Defense is they come to our land and we defend ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a Department of War, and then you had basically, all of your guys from the Pentagon and stuff like that would sit around the table, and presidents would have access to that, and then they had their cronies who were in black programs have separate, back office meetings, and there's just a lot of different things that go on. And that's absolutely right, about the pillaging and taking over and controlling. It's all about resources. It's all about all the things that these different bodies of land have to offer, like Venezuela. It's one of the most rich countries in the world as far as its natural resources. It holds about 85% of natural ore that we would use in IT, anything to do with electronics, circuit boards,
Yeah.
anything needing solder, anything, TV, anything electronic that you could think of, some type of ore in it.
Yeah.
So, but
All
yeah,
right. Well, let's talk about the territorial and the municipal jurisdiction, Mark.
Well, you've got the territorial government, which administers federal territories and possessions. They're not supposed to be administering the states of the Union, and it operates under military law and statutory codes. And I think the military law, is the UCMJ, which is the
Uniform Military Code of Justice.
You're right, uniform, right. And then you've got the municipal government, which is a foreign entity under international law governing the District of Columbia and federal enclaves. The organic states versus corporate states, the original states like Ohio and Texas and Virginia were replaced by corporate franchises, state of states, state of Ohio, state of Texas, etc. When you hear that word "of" in there, you know it's almost guaranteed to be a corporation, and each of them has their own set of codes and regulations. So your state didn't disappear; it was cloned, and the copy doesn't answer to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what we go over a lot. These people, the state of state crap, it's so hard to comprehend when you're first getting into the assemblies and learning about this stuff, but those are just the kind of the business organizations, it's all dead entity, fictitious stuff that has nothing to do with men and women,
Yeah, they keep us busy in the coliseums, playing, watching games, doing whatever it is. Yeah, entertainment. Don't pay attention to what's going on around you. We wouldn't want you to know that because you might actually have something to say about it. So it's sad that we've gone to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it gets into statutory law versus common law. So common law, the law of the land based on natural rights, due course of law, which I guess people out here would know it as due process, and trial by jury, not a jury trial, because that's just don't do it. Statutory law, the law of the sea jurisdiction based on codes, regulations, and corporate policy. That's why we say that these guys that call themselves peace officers are policy enforcement to code breakers. And then this is all based off presumed consent by operating in commerce, using a social security number, unbeknownst to you, that's been basically stuck on you with a tacit agreement. And then filing taxes when you get your first job, another tacit agreement without total disclosure. And then, this is where they presume you to be a corporate citizen under statutory law. So in common law, you're innocent until proven guilty. In statutory law, you're guilty until proven compliant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the way it is. We got so many of these, roadside pirates that, they need your consent. So they have all these tricks along the way to get that damn consent. And, once again, this is stuff that's getting spread around social media like wildfire, and everyone knows this stuff. It's just that they're not taking action to fix it. We all know what they're doing to us. We all know that it's unlawful, but we have to change our status, join our assemblies, get our courts going, and stop this shit.
So we have a suggestion in the chat talking about reading the Law of War Manual. I have read that. In fact, I've passed that out to several states over the past 4 years, and it's up to them to do their reading upon it in the assembly or independent study groups. It's not something we talk about on here. We focus on more of a Reeve approach, our common law sheriffs would operate from. So anyway.
Yeah.
So I wanted to address the incarceration statistic. Now that there's over 700,000 men and women in prison, that there's no victim, none whatsoever. And it isn't until lately that, there's some advocacy groups getting involved and saying this has got to stop. Our original laws said you had to have a victim, just like the speeding ticket, right? There's no victim. If you race along and drive like you're crazy and kill, and now you have a victim, sadly. But the reality is that they're putting these men and women in jail for crazy stuff because it allows them to use their Siskiyou trusts.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Annette, I with all the city council members, mayors, police chiefs, sheriff, everybody, when you tell them that stuff, no victim, no crime, they don't comprehend it. They are so stuck with that damn money, with making money for their corporation. It is, and you know what? They're being paid to do that. It's like me and Adam tell the audience all the time, that's emolument violations. You know what I mean? You're being paid to commit a crime. Mm-hmm. And we keep saying it. We're offering amnesty. We're offering amnesty, but God damn it, sooner or later. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say there's a lot that goes into this, but we're speaking specifically from a Reeves perspective, and we're not talking about assembly business. I see there's a lot of arguments. People want to debate in the comment section. Are you part of your assembly? Are you doing anything to change the tides of what we're dealing with? Because arguing with me is not going to get you anywhere or anything done. Arguing with any of us isn't going to get anything done. So thank you for your research and apply it. Go apply it.
Yeah, exactly. Join your assembly and teach them about it. That's what we need, right?
And right. Live every day by that rule, not just, like thinking we're all going to save you. Again, going back to that, they got to be their own hero. They have to be the hero for their towns and for their counties and their states. I've been studying the canton system in Switzerland, and a lot of towns don't even have a jail. They put them out to community service. They have all kinds of other ways that the community decides that person should make, compensation for whatever happened. And it's amazing how that system really works. And if you don't have someone in your family that is willing to take care of you while you're in the jail, you don't even get fresh clothes or food. You just sit there in this little building until somebody feels sorry for you. So there's other ways that it used to be done in our small communities before we got into this big corporate jail system that is making them even richer off of their Dun & Bradstreet corporations.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the psychological and cultural conditioning. We were bringing that up a little bit earlier, like the education and media. The corporate system is reinforced through schooling, entertainment, and news. We all know that. Shaping beliefs about government, law, and citizenship, and they really pumping it into you, the old USA. Everybody wants to get excited, wants to get involved when they start pumping this stuff out. And if you've noticed, whenever they want people to feel a little bit of sympathy, they always talk about the children, or they talk about veterans. Those are the two big ones. And for me, once I hear those, they're like trigger words to me, because I know they don't give a shit about the children. If they did, they would fix the schools. They would fix all kinds of stuff, but that's a corporation. It's our job to do it. We're going to take over and we're going to fix it. So, in language manipulation, words like citizen, resident, and person, they have legal meanings and they're different from everyday use. You got different dictionaries with different versions, and you got courts that use legalese, and nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. And it shouldn't be that way. The fiduciary or the fiduciary of the Federation talks about that a lot. We should just be speaking plain English. Words mean one thing. It's not that complicated. And normalization of control. Words are licenses, permits, and registrations are presented as necessities, but they're tools of jurisdictional control, And we have not got full disclosure on all this stuff. And so I think it's our job to kind of take it back to the younger kids the kids that are just starting to get their taking driver's lessons. I think it's our job to tell them, hey, you shouldn't get a license. If you pass that driving test, you're good to go. Stop getting into these contracts, because what the hell is a license? What does that piece of plastic do for you after you passed your test?
It takes your rights away and it converts them into privileges. Then
There
they
you go.
assign a fee to it and they tax that fee, and then you're subjected to whatever revised code or ordinance that comes from that. So there's a lot of comments, man. I mean, some of them are getting kind of off. I mean, that's a jural assembly thing. Get your juries to do jury nullification on those type of issues. Get yourself a county reeve. Get yourself, some reeves with, some posse. Start training them. That's a state issue. It's everywhere across the country. And I do agree with, the one guy's comment that 5% of us are trying to wake up the rest of the population. 2% are making us look bad because they're into all these other processes and groups. And we're getting a bad name thrown into the same category basket by these federal subcontractor agents. So we're not out here doing anything nefarious or malicious or extreme. I mean, we're talking about historical things that can be looked up. And I don't see the problem with telling the truth and shedding light on it.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with U.S. citizens trying to talk down to me as if I work for them. I don't work for you. I work for the American people that elected me.
Yeah. I think some of these gurus on social media, they have a lot of good information, but it's coming from their point of view, fighting as a U.S. citizen in these C jurisdiction courts. They have all the knowledge to fight in a C jurisdiction court. We're not doing that here. That's not what being an American is about. We are restoring our government. We don't need to go into their courts and fight that shit no more.
And there's more of us.
Our own common law courts,
There's more of us. If people would just wake up and they would come over, get with their assemblies, there's more of us than there is of them. So as soon as the people figure that out, it's not really rocket science. The first, revolution took what, 3%, less than 3%.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I don't really believe the history there. I think there was a little bit of fabrication, but
the psychological and cultural conditioning, they didn't need to conquer you. They just needed to believe that you've been conquered. That's basically what it was.
If I could add something too, I think that if everybody has to know somebody in their families or in their lives that is either a police officer or a sheriff or in the military. And if we just take a few minutes to help them to comprehend that they don't actually realize that they're fighting us, they're not working for us, that it would change the trajectory, because then the general public wouldn't be so scared to have an opinion on those types of things anymore, because they're so
you shouldn't be living in fear anyways when your
Right.
employees know damn good and well that they're doing wrong by us and they're not upholding their contracts to us, and we have every right to hang them. I'm not saying I'm for violence. We give limited amnesty, but if they don't take it serious, then it's like I've been saying for the past 4 years and longer. I don't want to hear them cry about it,
When we were kids, we would run to the officers. We were excited to have them come to our homes or come to our schools or talk to us. There's clearly a fear base today, and that needs to be fixed. It really, truly needs to be fixed across the board for this whole change to come about, so that people aren't thinking that this is, the brown shirts comes to mind, that you will do it and you will like it and it's not your opinion, and that needs to stop, because that wasn't what law enforcement or sheriffs were all about. It was about the people really believing in them and trusting them and knowing that they were there to protect them and their assets.
But they've never really been here to protect and serve. They've been here to enforce policies against code breakers. That's why up in New York, officers were sued for watching somebody get stabbed to death and they didn't step in to intervene. And the Supreme Court ruled in their favor because they said that's not in their job description. That's part of discretion.
Wow.
So they ended up, siding with the officers, not going after them.
Unbelievable.
All right. Well, we talked about the founding of the republic. We talked about how we lost it. So here we go. The best part of all, the awakening. How do we get it back, Adam?
Well, reclaiming your political status for starters. You got to correct your status from a U.S. citizen to an American state national or citizen of your state. And we emphasize that most Americans are unknowingly registered as corporate citizens of the United States, all caps. Status corrected, status that subjects them to statutory law. So reclaiming your status means declaring yourself a living man or woman on the land, not the legal fiction, the all caps name. I believe they call it a public usufruct name. When you correct the record, this involves filing documents such as a declaration of political status, certificates of assumed name. There's going to be a variation if you've been married a couple times. And then on the land recording, these documents are all designed to rebut presumption of corporate citizenship. So why this matters is without correcting your status, you remain under the jurisdiction of the corporate government and its codes. And that's why you're not getting remedy when you try to go pro se or, claim that you're a living man or woman. None of that stuff works, and they're hip to it. They know people have been doing this for a long time. The difference is that a lot of people will say these things, but they haven't taken the proper steps and they don't know what the hell they're talking about because they're not doing research. They're not educating themselves. And even if they did, it's still probably like a 9-to-1 chance that you're going to, walk out of a place unscathed. That's just how they roll. They steamroll right over you. So you were never meant to be a citizen of a corporation, by the way. You were born a sovereign of a nation.
Yeah, you're right. Well, we got the awakening part out of the way. Mark, Annette, how about the rebuilding of the republic, the state assemblies?
Okay, well, the state assemblies movement across the country, people are forming lawful assemblies, not political parties or activist groups, but actual state level governments, county by county, state by state. These assemblies are restoring the original structure of the governance, electing lawful officials, and reclaiming control over the land and the resources of that land. Lawful versus legal. Assemblies operate under common law, not statutory law, meaning they serve the people, not corporate interests. You don't need to overthrow the system. You just need to rebuild the one that they buried a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. We're not trying to take over anything. We're not fighting or warring against the government. We're restoring the lawful American government that's always been here, just unoccupied. So, Mark, how about public notices and due process?
Well, you need to publish your status, and once you've corrected your political status, it must be publicly recorded through a land recording office or through an assembly, or I should say either like a county or state land recording office. I don't think there's any more de facto land recording offices, and I think they've shut those down. And so due process is giving notice to the corporate system, and you establish your standing in law. This is how you exit the matrix. It's not a protest, but a process. You need to legally rebut what they're presuming about you. You're not asking their permission. You're asserting your rights and rebutting false claims. Freedom isn't granted, it's declared and recorded.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we need. We need people to change their status, declare their status, change it, record it, come back to the land and soil. All right, well, withdrawing consent and living free, Adam.
So, opting out of the system, you can choose to not vote in a corporate election, not to file corporate taxes, and not to participate in statutory schemes such as these municipalities and that whole Ponzi scheme thing. Once your status corrected, living as a sovereign, this means engaging with your local assembly, using lawful money, and asserting your rights in daily life. So when we think about peaceful noncompliance, the path to freedom isn't rebellion, it's refusal to participate in fraud. How am I supposed to use the clean hands doctrine if I know that they're committing fraud with everything that they do, and then they're trying to subject me to it as if I'm even in that system, and I'm not? I can't knowingly participate in their legal processes when I know what it means to do that, and I know that they're profiting from it on the private side of the ledgering. So that's a big no for me. So you don't need to fight the beast. You just need to stop feeding it. Cut that fucker off at the waist.
Whoa, there he said it. He said it. Cut it off. All right, well, what do you guys think? Give it to him pretty good tonight?
I think that's great. We were all born supposed to be free. Every other animal in this world is just comes and goes, except for the ones that we put in our houses, of course. But why are we the only ones that have to pay and ask permission to go anywhere and ask permission to pretty much do anything? That needs to stop. That's not what we signed up for. We're supposed to be here.
It doesn't feel like we're free, does it?
No,
Hey,
it doesn't.
Freedom isn't free, is it?
No.
Nature versus nurture.
Nature always wins.
Nature always wins.
And their system is all fraud, based on fraud and deception.
Bills.
There you go.
Fraud vitiates fraud.
Well, hey, we're going to get ready to head out. But Annette, is there any social medias or anything that you have that you'd like to tell the audience so they can go check out? Or
Well, we have a wonderful website on Marion County, Florida, and it has updates from the Peacekeeping Task Force regularly and the militia. It's got active links, which are really wonderful if you want to keep up on without going through everything on the internet, which would take you your entire life. You can go on there and just check out what all the new changes are coming up, links to talk to these fine men, and just kind of stay in touch with what's all changing in your world around you, so that you can feel very confident and not be scared that we're all working hard. And for those who aren't, get off the TV, get off the sofas, stop going to the football games, get out and actually take a step into saving your country for your children and your grandchildren.
Be proactive.
there you go. Mark, do you have any shout outs you would like to make?
No, I don't have any social media, anything.
You're probably the smartest one out of all of us.
I don't watch TV. I probably haven't watched TV in over 15 years. Just
Yeah, I know. Well,
Telegram's
well, I
great.
just want to say, make sure everybody you check out the pktfnews.org. We put that up there for all you FBI agents and law enforcement officers that are watching this show. To give you a good background about what they're doing. And claimyourinheritance.info. Check that out. And you can also go to standup.land, where you can actually get yourself the paperwork to get recorded. Right, Ned? I think that's a good place to go, ain't it?
Yes, it is. And then Telegram's great. It has a lot of wonderful links to all of the different groups that are trying to make this a great place for all of us to live.
Awesome. Well, I want everybody to remember, this just isn't about you. It's about your children, your community, and your country. Their system only works if you stay asleep. So wake up, stand up, and speak up. We're out of here. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks for coming.
Have a
Appreciate
great
it.
night, everyone.
Had a blast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Nice having you.
have a good night.
Yeah. Everybody get out there and do the thing.
Yeah, wake up, America.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.